Good morning. Hi, Fiona. I guess it's good afternoon now, right? It's
Yeah,
noon.
crossed
Yes,
over. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
welcome.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. I'm ready for sweater weather, right?
Yes. It's nice and sunny up here today. We haven't had the best weather up north. It's been a lot of rain, a lot of gray days. So we have the sun shining today, which is really nice. How is it in Ottawa, Anna Louise? What are you there for?
I'm here. I'm doing a continuing ed event at a dealer, and so we're talking about once classified, then what? So we're talking about treatment planning and some instruments and you know that kind of thing. And the weather is sunny, but a bit chilly. So but we're going to go down to the Byward Market today and scout out, maybe do some early shopping for Christmas. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll
Love the
see.
Vinewood Market. So nice there.
Yeah.
Every year I always think I'm going to start now for Christmas. So that way I'm not like waiting and wondering if the gifts are going to come on time.
Yeah.
So hopefully this will be the year. The one thing I have ready since last year was I bought 7 pairs of pajamas. It was called Canadian pajamas, but they came from a different country and it took months. So at
Oh,
least now I have my Christmas Eve pajamas are all
they're
delivered.
already here. Good for you.
Oh, well, we have a large group coming on here today. So we are short 2 of our cast members. Carrie is speaking at the ODHA conference today I think they're at Nottawasaga. And then Beth had a family, her grandmother passed away, so she's at the funeral today. So she sends her best. But yeah, so it's just
We send our hearts and love to them, because that's both of them. One is excitement, one is sad.
yeah, it's very sad.
But we're pleased to have Fiona here today.
We are so pleased. We've been wanting you to come on for some time, Fiona. So I'm glad we're finally here. Can't wait to hear your story. And for those of you who are joining us, if you have questions, we just ask that you enter it into the Q&A. And then if you just have things to say, you can just add it to the chat. So you'll see their chat and then the Q&A, which there it is, Q&A. So feel free to add that and we'll ask the questions to Fiona. So just before we get started, I will read Fiona's bio here. So Fiona Mattrasingh is a dental hygienist with over 16 years in the dental field. 12 of those as a dental hygienist. She has held a variety of roles over the years: a consultant, a speaker, a mentor, creative, and president of the Alliance of Canadian Dental Hygienists, which is a nonprofit organization. But her most beloved is being a clinical instructor. So for the past 5 years, she has had the opportunity to teach, guide, and ignite passion within their dental hygiene students, and as they start their journey into dental hygiene. She continues to mentor new grads with her transition workshop, which helps to prepare them for the rigors and demands of the dental office after leaving the comforts of school. You can find more about this at www.mouthbox.com. And you can follow her along on Instagram at BigSisRDH. As she continues her journey, she pushes through the barriers of what it means to be a dental hygienist, advocates for diversity, and documents it all on her platforms on Instagram and TikTok at Mouthbox with 2 X's. So be sure to check this non-traditional dental hygienist out. We welcome Fiona, and we are so excited to have you here with us today on our show. And so I think for the first part of the show, we'll talk about mentoring new grads, and then the second part, we'll dive into the diversity part. So I would love to start this off with just asking you, why would a dental hygienist grad, a new RDH grad, not be prepared for the operatory?
Sure. I think when I try to look at it and try to understand, a lot of it maybe comes back to the factor of its entry to practice that we're preparing them for. And that is not always I think, adequate enough for what we're expecting for a really shining opportunity in the office. So entry to practice means you can definitely do what you need to do. You can make critical decisions, but you're missing some of that flourish, that, you know, that zhuzh that really makes you a fabulous RDH. And a lot of that comes from time, experience, mentoring, and, you know, that's a huge reason why I really wanted to flourish with that mentoring for new grads, because a lot of the times I'm hearing from different sources that they don't feel that they're quite ready when they're coming out. There's a disjoint between, you know, how do I take all of this theory? How do I take all of this knowledge? And how do I put it in 1 hour? Or how do I choose that maybe 1 hour is not enough? You know, there's a lot of different options, different choices for them when they get there. And it's just, I feel like there's just so much, and they don't necessarily understand that mentoring growth is really going to come in time. And it's a hard one to go from school to that, right? It's right away from
when you're given
3
hours.
appointments,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, there's the application of the knowledge, but there's also the team that happens at every office has a different sort of flavor. And all of those social aspects, they challenge you as well, right? Because you're trying to take all of this information that you learned and then work within the boundaries of that particular practice and get learn how the practice actually functions. That's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
I really love what you touched on there, because, you know, every office has a different flavor almost, right? Like, so they definitely, you can have that bare bones, and you're taking that with you, which is what's really important, but you've got to kind of tailor it to what's the expectation in that new office that you go to. How are they running things, you know?
Well, every office has a different patient population as well, right? Like, you know, it's different, you know, the community that you're serving in every practice, right? And then you have to tailor all of what you've learned then to maybe different target groups that are, you know, larger in this practice versus that practice. You know, if this, you know, is a bedroom community where people just have a lot of that community has a lot of toddlers versus a community that is older, that is, you know, got a more of an elder population. And then you have to take all of that in and remember what it predominates in that patient population. That's a whole lot of thinking to do.
That's a lot, for sure.
And also not to pick up some bad habits from offices that are already established who are, we do it this way. So to know, like, not to sacrifice your values and, you know, not to conform, which is tough when you're new, right? It's tricky.
Yeah. You don't want to perpetuate the legacy of errors that sometimes we find in practice.
So stick to what you really stick to what you feel is right. And then find a mentor, because if you don't have somebody to ask, like, this is what's expected of me in this office, and if you don't have anyone to go to, that can be tough, right? So always have that mentor, that coach that you can fall back on. And is this okay? Is this normal? Should I be expecting this?
Yeah, and I think you hit on a lot of the
Tell us a bit about transitions.
Yeah, I was just getting into that. I think you hit a lot of the points why I developed a transition workshop. I mean, the broad depth of everything that we need to know. It would be so great that if when you go in, you have a really great blueprint, a really great, you know, knowledge, solidified knowledge of what's the bare bones or what's the blueprint of how I should be or what I should be doing. And then you can kind of focus on those other nuances of what else makes me a great hygienist? What else do I need to have access to, versus just worrying about those simple aspects of the appointment or time management or what have you. So that's really what I want to focus on, is getting them much more comfortable in the right now, get them that blueprint, that bare bones of understanding what the appointment should be like, what are expectations of you as a hygienist. Once they have that understanding, then I also offer a mentoring aspect where it's a one-on-one, where we can do in real time of, okay, this is what I happened this week. This is what I felt. This is how I experienced something. Where do I go from here? because you also touched on this advocacy, standing up for what you believe in and understand to be ethical, what's in the guidelines. That's also a really important thing. I mean, I don't know how long it took you guys, but for me, it took me a while to feel like I had autonomy, to feel like I could advocate whatever it was that I wanted to. So for me, it's really having them feel confident, having them understand, advocating the right way, having them understand a blueprint of what goes on in the office and how they should be a hygienist, so that they can focus on really developing in the other realms that they did not get in that entry to practice learning.
It's like setting them up for success, really, right from out of the gate. Because it's that I read a lot. I'm on a bunch of different Facebook groups. You guys probably are too. But when I read about, it's very disheartening. A lot of dental hygienists come out and like, did I make the
Right.
wrong mistake or the wrong choice? And it's like, no, you made a great choice. You just have to find that practice that suits you, right? And to have that positive mentality right from the get-go. Otherwise, yeah, you can get defeated pretty fast. So what are some of the red flags that you would say to run, that you would say to your mentors or to the people that you mentor to run from that office? Like, what do you see in the office, but then also during their interview? What are some of the red flags that you would say, run?
Yeah, for sure. I like to focus on a little bit more of the ones that you may not think of from the get-go. I mean, let's look beyond the pay, let's look beyond vacation time, or let's look beyond like, what does the office necessarily look like? Let's look at things like, does the office attend CE and as a team? Do they look at leveling up their team as a whole? That, I feel like that says so much about an office. If they're not interested in the growth of their team, if they're not interested in improving what they have to offer for the community, that's a red flag for me. And that actually touches back to what you were just saying, Kathleen. That's a red flag for your enjoyment of what you're doing long term. I wholeheartedly believe where I am today and why I enjoy hygiene so much is because I continue to look at how can I improve what I'm doing, what kind of CE can level me up to offer new things for my patients or for myself. So I'm not trapped in a little hole of what I'm offering or what I'm doing or what I'm looking for. I'm constantly learning new aspects. So I feel like that's such a big red flag if an office is not looking at either offering CE or is not regularly looking at, hey, is my team up to date? Are we understanding each other? How are we going to grow?
Yeah, because even like we have a lot of professional development courses through RDHU, like hands-on and live streaming and that. But even if it's just, even if you're coming with your fellow dental hygienists, it's always so great to go back to the practice and share your findings, share your learnings. Otherwise, it's like you learn things, you keep it to yourself, you go back and change doesn't happen, right? So it's a great opportunity to be like, let's meet up, once a month and kind of recap what's just gone on and any new protocols that we want to implement. And because really, if you're not learning, you're not growing, and you're not going to stay engaged, you're not going to love what it is that you do, right? It all comes down to growth. I agree.
I would say 100, like 90% of the times that I did CE on my own were the times in my past where nothing changed, nothing got implemented. So you really bring up a great point when you do it with another hygienist, preferably someone in your office. So you have a little bit more vocal power. It's not just Fiona saying this, it's also Kathleen saying it, it's also Joanne saying it. Maybe we need to really listen into this. So when you bring your team on board, or you have I always call a CE buddy, go with a CE buddy. It's just so much easier to really have that strength and that drive to really implement what you learned.
Yeah, and you get excited. You're like, let's do this, let's do that, and come up with a plan, go back to your practice, do that whole case presentation on this is what we want to do. And yeah, it's good. So what are some of the other red flags? So if they don't have that.
Yeah, if they're not looking at elevating the team knowledge wise, I would also say taking a look at how they celebrate the team. Like if they don't celebrate the team at all, there's this really big movement on, I don't know if you've seen on social media, and we don't want pizza parties anymore, right? Like not celebrating your team in the right way. I actually had a reel that I just mentioned that, and people,
Oh, it was yours. I
sorry,
probably saw. I think I saw yours.
I just posted a reel about that. But it's a big thing because, you know, back in the day, it'd be like, oh, guys, you did a great job. Here's a pizza party. But then you're not really seeing, I guess, celebration in other aspects, maybe. And I don't mean it doesn't always have to be monetary, right? Like, because we know that the boss is, and I understand everything's a business. We want to get that point as well too, but there's definitely other ways to elevate the team, to celebrate them, and to show them that you really appreciate what's happening, what's being done, and to even vocalize it, you know.
Love when offices recognize someone who's done some major continuing ed, like if they get a certificate in something like, let's say, laser, and then they credential them right in front of their clients and says, guess what, you know, so and so just got their credentials for laser. And that would be like so uplifting, right? And it doesn't matter if it pertains to that particular client on that particular day, but it talks about the ongoing elevation that is happening with that particular person, but within that office, it's being celebrated.
Yeah, and you just reminded me of Lisa Moore, who she wrote for oral hygiene. And then she didn't even tell the orthodontist that she works for when she came in. He had it open on the desk. He was sharing it with everybody. And that made her feel so good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely guilty of doing that. I'll do things and I won't say anything. My last dentist that I was working with, she was really great at celebrating the team, and she'd be like, guys, look what Fiona just did. And I'd be like, oh, thank you, you know. And you don't remember, or you don't realize just how much that really lends towards your enjoyment of what you're doing, and just makes you feel so much more powerful as an RDH.
Absolutely.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Do you have any more red flags that we should be watching out for?
Yeah, I would say communication. I mean, we all hear about those terrible offices with terrible teamwork. So I think communication is really key. Making sure that there's positive communication throughout the team. And then I would also say wanting to see like red flags, to see the operatory, see the instruments as well too. Take a look at those, because if those are not, those are really key signs to what's going on here. They can say really great, pretty words, but if you don't see what's actually happening, then you might miss out on something. So I feel like those are red flags too.
So would you recommend that during the interview, they would say, how often do the dental hygienists replace their hand instruments and their ultrasonic inserts? Like, are these questions that you would recommend to your mentor, to your mentees, to ask these questions?
Absolutely. So that was one of my green flags, asking for the budget. Is there a budget for instruments? What does that look like? How often do you give that allotment to upgrade instruments? Stuff like that, because then it shows you, okay, what's the quality of the tools, the instruments, the devices that I'm going to be using, and am I going to be able to do this at, you know, beyond the bare minimum? We're not looking for bare minimum.
Yeah. So if we're kind of finished, we're kind of eking into also looking at some of the positives. So green lights. So like for me, you know, for someone to be able to say to me, all the hygienists here have their own instruments. That would be great, because that would be, I get to look after my own stuff and I get to have my request list. That would be, but tell us some of the other ones, because you kind of started us there.
Yeah. So definitely let's see those. Is there a budget for the instruments? You know, what does that look like? Can I see the instruments? Again, also, that's another great one. Do I get to choose my own preferred instruments? Because just like you said, you know, each person might have a different preference of what they like to use, how they like to go about their treatment. Aside from that, looking at how the team is brought together. So number one, how long has your team been here? What's the longevity? Again, that's hard right now. You know, I feel like post-COVID, a lot of turnover is happening. So I don't always like to use that as just like the only indicator of a quality team or a quality hire, because there could be turnover for a plethora of different reasons, especially post-COVID. But I think taking a look at how long has your staff been here, how long, what's the longevity like, if there are any concerns or excuse me, disputes, how do you resolve that? How do you boost your team's morale? Looking at that, so that you're looking at what is, having an office that has a plan or knows what they're doing with boosting morale or boosting a team environment, so that you know you're going into something that's healthy for you. I think that's another big thing, making sure that your mental health is really great when you're entering these offices and staying that way. Something that was, like a hard thing for me as a new grad. I found that I sat in offices that had terrible, terrible team environments, and I was just like dreading going to work every day, and not understanding that this is something that I could look at as a red flag or have as a green flag when I'm asking them in an interview. What's the environment like here? How are you boosting it? Right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Those are all fantastic points. And so when we look at the red and the green flags, like it's hard for a new grad because they're like just mind blown to even be walking into an office, and perhaps having a mentor like yourself, well, definitely that would help. But talking to their colleagues about how they're feeling when you just walk into the room, it's just like when you walk into anything, like a restaurant, like, does this feel comfortable? Does this feel happy? Like, what is the visual look of the people who are there? Are they, all looking like they're totally stressed out? Or is it possible that it's a more relaxed atmosphere? What's on the walls or what's not on the wall, right?
Yeah, you can feel the vibes, right?
Yeah.
If somebody's in there and they're rolling their eyes,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to run. That's a red
Yeah.
flag.
You know what? That's why I like working interviews.
I was
Initially,
going
like
to ask you that
always,
next question. Yeah.
those are always really such stressful moments, but it honestly gives you very good real life in the moment understanding of what is this office like, how do the dentists deal with their team, how does the team deal with their dentist, how does everybody come together. So I think it's, those are really positive moments to really see. And I prefer to do, if I don't know that, I definitely have taken a job without doing a working interview because I knew the dentist and I had a feeling I knew what the office would be like. But I definitely feel that working interviews are beneficial to have before going into a job.
It's a big commitment, right? For you and for them. So if you can test the waters, I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely. So what would be the best time for an RDH who's like not feeling secure right now to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So I think that there's two different options that I would say. So number one, you can either look at you've graduated already and or you're about to graduate, you're looking at preparing for your boards, and you're worried about the flow of what's to come. You're worried about your strength in understanding what you're going to be doing in the op. You're worried about really shining, because I think that's another thing that you're so overwhelmed to overcome with all the new things that you need to do. Are you going to really shine as an individual when you go into the office? That's something that I had a big problem with. Like I knew my knowledge, but I was so anxious and so overwhelmed that I didn't shine as a person when I got into the office. So I think that at this point, it would be you're ready to graduate. Maybe you're almost at your boards or you've just finished your boards and you're looking for a position. That's a really great time because I can go over things like interviewing aspect, understanding key points to know when you're going for temping or for working interviews, understanding the basic layout of what an RDH appointment should look like, a suggestive template for their time management, a lot of different aspects that will really help them to be on the right foot. And as I said, give them a blueprint so that they can start to focus on other ways of really growing versus, oh my God, I can't fit all this in 1 hour, right?
Do you help?
Fiona, I would have loved that.
I would have loved that. That's why
Yeah.
I created it, honestly. And then I recently just released a summit. I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to see it as yet, but in November 12th, we're going to have the RDH New Grad Summit. And this will include some of my transition workshop. It'll have some board review prep, and then it'll also have some panel discussion as well too for questions. So this one would be more so for before they're going into the boards. Ideally, maybe if they're going to be writing their boards this January, this would be really great prep for them to feel confident, to get some understanding, and then to set you on a tone of what I said in the beginning. You know, CE learning is really that thing that's going to keep you tuned and in tone. So starting that path now and seeing how that CE is going to really kind of boost your level up. It's going to help you with that understanding forward.
It's so good to hear you talk like this because, I mean, our heart and soul is professional development, right? So to hear you really stress that to the new grads and that, it's like, you know, because we see so many people that are just checkbox, you know, I need this many hours checkbox, whereas you see others who have got all their requirements within the first month of the year, right? And they just keep going. And that's how you really stay engaged. That's how you really, truly love what it is that you do. And that's why we started RDHU way back almost 15 years ago, because we didn't want to have that checkbox experience, right? So it's refreshing to hear that you are sharing this with all the new grads. And we always send a follow-up email. So in the follow-up email, I will put your information as well, so they can get in touch with you. And this summit, is it live online? Is it in person?
It's in person. It's going to be in Etobicoke. So this will be my first time having it since the last time I was able to have it live was 2018. So I'm excited. This is the first time I'm able to have it live since then. Yeah, and it'll be in Etobicoke on November the 12th. And just to reaffirm what you were saying, CE not only gives you that interest, I always tell my students, this is what's going to be a determinant for what you're paid and where you want to work you want to work.
Yeah, the opportunities, right? If somebody's getting hired and they need somebody with ortho and you don't have that, they're going to go with the one who has the ortho experience or the one who has laser or piezo. You know, it's like, yeah, that's good. That's very good. And Louise, do you work with any new grads? Like at your practice, you have that specialty practice, so you probably don't really have them in your, but what is your thoughts and feelings on the new grad experience?
Thank you, Kathleen. I work with a bunch of seasoned veterans at our specialty practice. However, I do get to meet a whole bunch of new grads when we have our hands-on courses. And you know, so many of the people who graduated during COVID didn't actually end up working on patients until after they graduated. So I'm seeing those people, and I always welcome new grads into my instrumentation programs, trying to help them be better using their instruments. Maybe they know what better questions to ask than they did at school, because you never know what you don't know, right? And you've identified areas that are challenging, you know, like I can't seem to get here or there. And sometimes it's simply for me to adjust their seat. And then all of a sudden the light bulb goes off, and it's so wonderful to see that in our sessions that we have at RDHU. And then just learning better how to, you know, imagine what they're doing in and around teeth, underneath the tissue, in and around implants, to understand why you're doing something. Like at the time you learned the theory of what to do and why you should do it this way, but what are the achievements? What are the outcomes that you can expect to have happen if we implement you know, universal curettes as the, you know, subgingival instrument of choice, or we implement piezo use, and we can actually be silent and we don't have to have people drowning. And so, you know, for those people who are gaggers, this is like a piezo is just marvelous. And it's so much better for the clinician because your hand is not vibrating. So, you know, it is wonderful to have seasoned veterans always in a class, always. But the young, newer hygienists, it's so exciting to give them that support that they need. And when we do those hands-on programs, we do recognize those, and everybody tries to get them to try and give them what's a big tip that you could, you know, enlighten your colleague with, that's going to help them next week. And so, yeah, I love that part. And being a part of RDHU, we've seen people come back numerous times with, you know, as they grow, they all of a sudden, they want more, right? More knowledge and more mastership of their profession.
Yeah,
That's great. That means you really unlock that that hidden gem for them. That's really great.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we really enjoy that.
There was a question here in the Q&A. I can answer that now. You want to hold on? So there's a question here. Do you think 60 minutes recall appointments are enough to provide proper hygiene therapy? I think that's a very loaded question. I think that's unfortunately, for me, that's not a cut and dry, black or white kind of response. 60 minutes could be more than enough for an appointment, depending on what you're doing. I always say, let's take a look at what we're providing in that appointment, or let's take a look at what are the needs once you get into that appointment, and maybe you're going to identify that you need to extend it in future for that person. But a lot of times a 60-minute, I feel, for the initial assessment does work. I don't like to typically treat an adult in less than 60. And I feel that it really sets you up to understand, okay, do I need more? Do I need less? And again, just looking at all the things that you need to offer, because I mean, at the end of my clinical, and I don't know if I mentioned, I'm not doing clinical right now. So I'm referring back to when I was working clinically in April. You know, I had to do scans, I had to do iTero scans, I had to do probing, I had to do a lot of different things. So when you add a lot of those factors in there, technically 60 minutes is not going to be enough. But if we look at kind of divvying up our appointments, so maybe this first appointment, you're seeing them, they're getting a dental exam, and then the next appointment you see them, they don't need a dentist exam. Well, then that's when you can add a lot of those extra factors in there.
Yeah, I try and get hygienists to think about when they're going to have an exam to add the 10 minutes. Do not gyp yourself, right? Get them to add 10 more minutes when there's going to be an exam, so that you have a good quality amount of time. We have lots to do and lots we can accomplish in order to make our population base healthier. You're absolutely right.
Thank you. Okay, before we go into the diversity session, I just want to share something. We have a new company that we have partnered with. It's called Collab Dentistry. So I just want to share this little video with you, and they are our sponsors for today's show. So let me just do this here. I can do this. Share. All right. Isn't that exciting?
It is.
Yes. So this is, did I stop share? Okay.
Oh,
yes.
Sorry. Oops. Never mind. Here we are. Yeah, so this is very exciting, and timing is awesome because in Ontario, I know we have people from all over, Canada and the US typically on here, and sometimes even from Europe on here with us. So, but for Ontario, our self-initiation order has just been lifted. So we no longer have to be self-initiated to practice on our own as independent. So this is a very exciting app. So it's kind of like if you're thinking about doing your own sort of independent, but without the bricks and mortar, this is like almost like the Airbnb, right? You're finding that op that is available in your area when you can schedule and bring your own clients, your own patients there. And also it's a great opportunity for dental practices who might have an extra op that is just being open, right? Maybe it's not every day, but what a great way to be introduced to another dental hygienist who can bring his or her clients and bring it in some income, some revenue for you. And possibly you could even work out referrals. So if they need restorative or any sort of treatment, perhaps that dental hygienist who's renting from your op can also bring extra business for you. And then as dental hygienists who have their own clinic, this is another great opportunity for you to bring in some revenue for yourself, and also just to bring more awareness of dental hygiene, right? So I just think it's a fabulous opportunity. They just launched it last week. So I was excited to share this with you. Let me just see if somebody has a question here. The chat, let me see. This is where our patient. Yes, and this is where advocating for our patients and ourselves comes in. And I agree, prioritizing is must. At least I'm finding my only 2 months of practice. Thank you. Similar to Hub, office space arrangements post-COVID. So yeah, so it's very exciting. And so if you're interested, I will send in the follow-up email as well, but it's just collab. And when you're looking at for it in the app, it's collab dentistry, and that'll pop up, and then you can just go through that. Alrighty, so
They were asking, Kathleen, if this is going to be across all the provinces.
oh yes, it will be, yes. Right now it's in Ontario. So the more people that we get on this, like even if it's something that you're maybe thinking about, get on it. So the more people that are on that, talk to your offices, whether you're in BC, Alberta, wherever you are, the East Coast, join in. And the more awareness that is out there, then the more we're going to be able to connect dental hygienists with that op. So I recommend that if it's something you're considering, hop on it as soon as possible, and then it will be more available in all the other provinces. Yeah.
About participation, right?
Participation, exactly. All right, so now on to diversity. So let's start with, what have you experienced, Fiona, in your time as an RDH that would help identify a need for change in the diversity and inclusion landscape?
Sure. So I just wanted to start with like my experience in the field is I find quite similar with a lot of other clinicians who are of a minority, visible minority, where there's not always a lot of, I guess, inclusion in the classes that we're in, not a lot of visibility of us in other factors. And so it can feel quite lonely. It can feel like we might not have necessarily a voice or a space for us. And so that's a lot of what, when I talk about these things, or I try to do new aspects for it, I'm looking at that. I'm coming from that zone. We had a really nice email the other day from our regulatory body with a beautiful picture of what it looks like, maybe 30 or 40 people in our regulatory body, but there was no visible minorities there in that image. And so that's really disheartening for me. I look at that and I think, is there space for me? Is there somebody thinking about me? Is there someone opening any, conversations, discussions, resources, support for me in that scenario? So I think a lot of what I would love to see is just an opening of availability. Like I mean, we can't be injecting more people. It is what it is, and we're going to attract whoever's interested in the field, but making sure that advertising is diverse, resources are diverse. Maybe there should be some support groups for visible minorities within the field where we can all come together and support one another, or not even just support one another. This can be a group that's open to everybody, but has resources for visible minorities so that everybody, not just visible minorities, can be supported and understand what's going on, right? So I think for me, that's like initially where I'm at, because when I was in school, it was really a challenge. When I was looking for a job, it was a challenge. I actually went to school in Windsor for hygiene. And I really tried hard. I really tried hard to get a position, to be honest with you. And even now I have family in Windsor. And when I go there, I literally drive around the city, and I remember how hard it was for me to get a job. I would walk office to office. I would hand out resumes. I would get referrals from friends. And can you believe I had a classmate who had me come in and do a coverage for somebody else in her office, and that dentist paid me $21 an hour and refused to give me more.
Wow.
So, I mean, these things it's hard for me to say. And when I ask them, that's not, a rate that's reasonable for me as a hygienist and what I provided for you, the answer was, well, I can't offer you more because you don't have experience. Or the answer is, I can't hire you because you can't have experience. But I'm seeing my classmates in these same offices. So it doesn't make sense. And I mean, I'm coming from a class where I'm one of two visible minorities. So it just doesn't make sense, right? So having resources, I think, is a really important thing going forward for offices, for our field in general.
Well, we all need to point stuff out. I think that's a huge part of our job. I actually say that often when our job is to point stuff out. So we need to be more vocal about that, all of us, right? So how did you overcome some of these obstacles, and how can we help change the viewpoint within our office even?
I mean, overcoming for me, my personality type is, if you tell me no, I'm just going to be like, okay, let me figure out how I can get past that. And that's my personality type. And I think that's why I overcome things. But everybody's not going to have that personality type, and nor should they have. And so overcoming, I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't know if I've overcome everything because I am still working at it. Yeah, I'm still working at it. I'm still trying to, be visible so that there is that understanding that there is a diverse opportunity or a diverse field of hygienists out there. But a lot of times I have really looked within myself, or I've confided with other visible minorities and had discussion group with them, which is why I say having maybe a group setting. And again, I wouldn't want to have a group setting that excluded anybody else that was open and willing to be there and to learn and to grow. But having a group setting so that everybody can lean on each other and support each other would be, I think, ideal. And I think having that come from maybe our associations or our governing bodies setting that up, I think that would be really beneficial. I think that overcoming really, again, really my personality type, and just having other people close to me who were open and willing to listen to me. Aside from that, I just keep trying. Someone says no, I will ask them, why not? Mm-hmm. I want them to explain whether they are judging based on me or my quality.
So what what can we do, like, as employers and like as your colleagues, as clinicians? What do you recommend?
I recommend diversity training.
Okay.
Diversity training in our offices. That's not only going to help our teams, it's going to help our approach towards our patients. I think that diversity training in our schools, making sure that our faculty as well are up to date. I think just in general in the field, there needs to be much more in tune to, oh yes, we're accepting. There needs to be actual knowledge and training behind it as well too. I think that marketing, I've seen a great shift in marketing. I think it's moving in the right direction, but I definitely think marketing, not only on our governing bodies, but even in our practices, making sure that, you know, your outward facing marketing does depict diversity. I think that that's ideal. So like the advertising and such, and I think holding space for diverse people to be on higher level positions is also important. You know, I had someone reach out to me recently and really, and they're not a visible minority, and really expressed to me how they felt it was very important to have much more space. And I don't want to see entry level. I mean, I want to see higher level.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
needs to be for diversity, visible diversity at the higher levels as well.
Well, we all need to help make that happen.
Mhm.
That's a project for us all.
Yeah, it's being aware. It's like some people might not even be aware that they're doing it.
And that's why I say that
Not
the
doing it.
training in the office, diversity training in the office, diversity training in the schools, everywhere. It really needs to come on board. You know, some of the things that I'm doing currently, I'm trying to look at, you know, our dentiforms, our dexters. How can we get those to be more representative of a diverse population? Can we have dental models that our students are working on that show pigmentation in the gingiva, that show, you know, pigmentation on the tongue? Can we have dexters that we're practicing rads on that have, you know, pigmented skin? You know, can we have those beautiful flip charts that we get from our companies, our marketing companies? Can we get those showing normal, not just pink, healthy gingiva, but also pigmented, healthy gingiva? Can we start getting those visuals out there? And, you know, in a place where clinicians and patients can start to see them? Can we start getting, you know, CE? I'm a part of the Alliance of Canadian Dental Hygienists. And our big thing is trying to invoke and to interject diversity into the speakers, into, you know, your outward facing, dental, like, sorry, I just lost my words there. You're outward facing, like going into the community and helping and giving those opportunities out. So we do try to have, you know, speakers who are of a very diverse platform or diverse in nature. Looking at that, I really would love to start looking at pamphlets and seeing full lineups of, you know, very diverse speakers. That's like a vision that I have, to be honest.
That's great. And I look forward to seeing more of that.
Yeah.
Just reading here what Peter said, and also hiring based on merit, not feeling. Employers really need to look at the achievement, not just how they feel about someone. Some HR personnel never actually read through my education employment history. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I've definitely had interviews in my time span where they've asked me nothing. They walked me around the office and said, okay, have a good day.
Oh my God.
I've had a number of different crazy things you would never believe. It's out there.
So Fiona, tell us how we can get involved.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, sending that interest to our governing bodies, sending that interest, letters of interest to our associations, getting involved with other organizations. As I mentioned, I'm a part of the Alliance of Canadian Dental Hygienists. We do have a free dental clinic coming up for the the community in November, looking at trying to be involved in those means with diverse communities. It's really hard because in preparation of coming here already, I knew that there wasn't much, but I really tried to dig deeper to look for associations that are there to support, especially Canadians of diverse minorities, and then in dentistry, and I couldn't find any. So that's really hard. That's really disheartening, and there's no support.
Right. So we need to, when we see, or as we continue to see, even printed matter that doesn't have a diverse display, then we need to make calls to those people who are putting that out so that they know that it matters to me, right?
Absolutely. Or even asking your office. I've had scenarios where my office was updating the imaging, and I asked them, I recommended some images, and they said, absolutely not. So questioning offices, and interjecting, why not? Why is this not more diverse?
Exactly.
So there's really no support for dental hygienists who identify as minorities. That's what you're saying. Because I was going to ask you that. Send some links and I'll share it with. But
I know in Canada, I was unable to find. So I would, if anybody does have a group that they can suggest or recommend, I would be so grateful to see that. But there's nothing that I found for Canadians. I really want to. There's some American groups, but I mean, they wouldn't be able to support our environment and what we need. I really would like to see a Canadian-based group or support.
Well, this can be your next project that you're working on.
I feel like you're going to say that. I have so many projects. I would love to. I would definitely.
Well, that would help our profession as well. I mean, it's what we need to do, because we also have diverse populations that we treat, and that, and we hope that in those diverse populations, there are, young budding hygienists that are going to want to take on this career. So, are there any special projects that you're working on right now that you would like to share with us?
As I mentioned, I really am trying to look into getting more visible minority, like a visible application of what is health in our marketing. So I have reached out to the companies Kilgore. I've reached out to Crescent RLB and put that on the table and discuss, what can we do? What can this look like? Can we get this done? Can we start that? So I have been, reaching out to schools. If anybody has contacts within schools that they feel would be helpful, writing a letter. I do have a template letter. If you would like it, you can always email me. I have a template letter that can address speaking to your faculty about interjecting more visible minority type aspects within your models, within your marketing tools. And then again, just reaching out to those companies, reaching out to your governing boards, associations, or even messaging me. I can gather, that support and bring it forward for us as well too.
Very good.
I think if we all simply start asking, that we would like these a more diverse pictorial of what the world looks like in Canada, then people making those decisions will gradually hear us. We just have to tune it up, right?
No,
Wow.
absolutely.
That is a big and broad area that you've brought to our attention today. I mean, not that we were unaware, but in thinking about all the different ways that we could affect a change, and by making our views known, that we should be doing that for sure. For sure.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm very glad that you're receptive and that you were able to have me here today so that I could get this message out, because the more people that hear about it, the better it is for that to, you know, come into fruition for us.
Well, thank you so much for being on with us today. And I'm just going to share my screen again and I'm going to show the collab video one more time. And then just to share another video of what is coming up at RDHU. We'd like to thank all of you for being on with us today. I really enjoyed the session. So let me just share my screen. One moment, please. I see some questions, so I'm going to check that out again just at the end here. Great. And then just one more quick video. That is that. All right, so that's all that is coming up. There's so much. We've been, it's been a busy start to this academic year, and you know, that, and on top of all the other things, like Annalise, you're in Ottawa doing a special event. Next week, I'm at Todd's doing 2 lectures and 2 hands-on workshops, and hopefully Beth as well, and so many things. Oh, thank you, Peter. Just want to see if thank you for the awesome discussion. Thanks so much. I want to make sure we didn't miss anybody. Same experiences regarding diversity, not getting interviewed or being told less pay than my colleagues. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Carrie. And then the lack of diversity and representation in the industry is an issue. Even saying you're giving a course on diversity at the ADA, I was met with hostility. Yeah. All right, well, this is going to be a mission, right? We appreciate all that you shared with us today, Fiona, and to our audience, to our members, and let's keep working hard and make it so it's just, this doesn't have to be a topic for discussion. All right.
Excellent. Well,
Excellent.
thanks for joining us today, Fiona. I learned a lot, and it's gonna end up helping new grads and upcoming grads. And I think we really need to focus in on that. So, I hope that in a couple of years' time, when we have you back, that you've seen progress, and that will be a good thing.
That is exactly what I would love to tell you the next time I come, that we've got
Excellent. Excellent.
Hey. All
Well,
right.
we
Thank you.
appreciate everybody out there.
And we'll send the follow-up email and a certificate as well. So that'll be in the portal. If any of you are new to RDHU, you've now become a part of RDHU. You can always unsubscribe if you wish to not be part of us, but we hope you stay. You will have access to this video. Some people are watching it afterwards, some are live. And then there'll be the certificate in your portal as well, okay? All right.
Have a great Friday, everybody.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, Fiona.
Bye.